The Toronto Blue Jays just wrapped up their second game of the season against the St. Louis Cardinals. It was an ugly 4-1 loss. We saw some good things out of Kevin Gausman, but the big takeaways after two games is that baseball will always be random. After 19 hits yesterday, they mustered up just 3 hits today. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, I want to thank you for all the support that we've gotten on the pregame live streams and on the postgame reaction videos as well. The season is finally here, but if you're getting discouraged after this one loss, I'm going to remind you that the best case scenario is that there are probably 62 other games like that throughout the rest of the regular season. So we'll try not to overreact after kind of a bit of a weird game, but we did see some good things and we want to highlight those as well. But it's all right. It's just one game, I guess.
Yeah, very unfortunate that this happened this early, especially after Thursday's game. But make sure to hit the subscribe button, as even through the losses, if you're watching this, then it's going to be a long season. So we'll get into it now. Hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 7K. But today, the moral of the story was missed opportunities for the Blue Jays. They touched on that with Blue Jays Central after the game. Just so many runners left on base, so many runners left in scoring position. And Peter, I'm going to put up the dreaded box score here now, and you can see 3 hits, 29, of course, at bats, 8 strikeouts, which is not too bad, but 10 walks, which was absolutely, in theory was great, but we were not able to capitalize on any of them besides a pass ball that allowed a run to score. It wasn't even a base hit. So what were your takeaways on the offense today? They looked really, really ugly when it actually mattered, and otherwise, the patients were pretty good.
Yeah, the one stat that really stood out to me is that one on the bottom right corner. 28 men left on base. That doesn't happen very often. That's kind of an anomaly, just like yesterday was an anomaly where they had 19 hits, only 3 extra base hits, and 10 runs. So in back-to-back games, we saw 2 ends of the spectrum. One where we probably won't see it too often, where they get almost 20 hits and 10 runs. And then today, where they get 3 hits and leave 28 men on base and walk 10 times. So the base runners were there. There was a lot of traffic on the base pass, but they just could not muster up that big hit. And that was the big takeaway from today's game. But the one thing that really did stand out to me was the patience. And we'll touch on that a little bit later in the video. But I saw some things I liked out of the offense, although the results were necessarily not there.
Yeah, and like you said, the discipline was pretty important there. Is 10 walks. Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s at-bats have looked very, very good. He's looked very, very comfortable there. Dalton Varsho as well, 2 walks. So it was overall very, very impressive, that side of the ball. But Kevin Kiermaier was the only guy who really got any base hits throughout the entire game. Of course, Bo hit the little, hit to right field. But overall, a very... I guess annoying would be a good word if you were watching it, as they kept getting runners on base.
Yeah.
The bases were getting loaded a couple times, and they just weren't able to get a hit. Brennan Belt looked pretty bad out there today, and he also looked bad in the opener. He'll be fine, I hope, but anything you want to touch on before we move on to the pitching side? Because this was an annoying game to watch, though I'm just happy baseball's back, but I know a lot of fans out there are annoyed.
I don't want to overreact after 2 games, and it's a long season. And if we're going to get discouraged right now, then I don't know if we'll make it, Nick. We won't make it. And they're not going to go 162-0, despite everyone saying, okay, the Jays are primed. They're winning 100-plus games. They're still going to lose a fair bit of games. And that's the beauty of baseball. There's so many regular season games that even the best teams lose probably 1 out of 3 times, right? So that's just the way it goes. That's the way baseball is. And it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. They'll bounce back tomorrow. The goal of the series coming in, and we said it ourselves, Nick, was 2 out of 3. They can easily go ahead and do that tomorrow against Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah, I agree. And let's Jordan Montgomery. Let's get into the starting pitcher today, which was Kevin Gausman, who, despite his stat line, he looked very, very good. Now, he did give up no earned runs. Of course, he gave up 3 unearned runs. And Peter, it was a pretty rough go for the defense today, which we can touch on as well later on. But just focusing on the pitchers now before that next topic is, he went 6 innings, 8 hits, and a lot of those hits were really weak contact. 3 runs, no earned on 7 strikeouts. Simber did really well out there. Eric Swanson gave up a run, unfortunately. But what did you see out of Kevin Gausman that was very good? We will touch on the defensive woes in a separate topic here in a second. But Kevin Gausman looked good out there. His splitter was great. His fastball was moving well, and the defense ended up letting him down, but he looked pretty good out there.
Yeah, the 8 hits are deceiving because a lot of that was weak contact, and I could maybe remember a handful of hits that were hit hard, but maybe Jordan Walker had one, and
Goldschmidt
Nolan
had one. I
Arenado
think
as
had one
well.
early.
Yeah, but apart from that, it was all just weak dribblers that found holes. And I mean, I'm getting deja vu from 2022, man. He was one of the unluckiest pitchers in baseball last year, and he's starting off the season on the same note. So 3 runs, 0 earned. That's the story of Kevin Gausman's life, and unfortunately, he's unlucky. He's just unlucky. Another BABIP of over 400 for him today. His FIP was at 1.04, which is your like expected ERA, negating all the other factors. So that's all. Those are all elite numbers, except just the luck is not on his side. Hopefully that can iron itself out over the course of 162, but he looked good today. The movement, the velocity, it was a rough day for the pitchers and the hitters because of the wind and the tricky conditions, but overall decent day out of the staff.
Yeah, I agree. I guess touching on Jack Flaherty, I mean, quickly good for him. He gave up 7 walks, gave up no hits. The Jays weren't able to get a hit until later on. So very, very weird day out of pitching. But we'll move on. Yeah, we'll move on now quickly to the defensive woes. And there was one major error by someone who we would not expect to be talking about, and it's really what ultimately led to those 3 unearned runs. And essentially, some people are saying that it cost us the game, and he kind of did. I don't want to put too much blame on him, but Matt Chapman with a pretty routine play, almost as routine as it gets, especially for him. And he just bobbled the ball, was going to go to second base, decided not to, lost the ball, and then threw a horrific throw to Vladdy at first there. What were your thoughts on that specific play?
Well, it did cost the Blue
It
Jays the
did.
game. That was the big play, and if he makes that throw, then there's no RBI single down the line from Nolan Gorman that was probably hit at 52 miles an hour off the bat.
Max.
So,
Max.
yeah, it was just a weird game. Like I said in the introduction, the randomness of baseball will never fail you. Yesterday, on Thursday, sorry, we saw 19 hits, 10 runs. We saw an offensive clinic. And today, the Jays couldn't buy a hit. They couldn't buy a play in the infield. And just an overall rough go. One other play that almost cost the Blue Jays was Kevin Biggio hesitating to throw the ball home on that routine play over there, but it ended up working out for him. And Bo Bichette doesn't look entirely comfortable at shortstop quite yet. So a few worrisome notes on the defensive side of the ball today. But like I said, it's game two, so let's not overreact because we're gonna start losing some hair by midseason if we keep doing this.
Yeah, and Biggio, it was a heads up play, at least to his credit, like you mentioned to me off camera, but it was a weird hesitation. And at the end, of course, which gave up the fourth run there, which was a weird, it ended up being an infield single to Vladdy that he has 95% of the time he'll be able to pick that ball. It was a pretty easy
Yeah.
pick. I've seen him pick balls much harder than that, but it was just a story of the day. We'll chalk it up to luck. We'll chalk it up to just baseball being baseball, and that's what we'll leave it at here. But one final topic for you all is a minor league report, as I misspelled league. That's fine. But a minor league report there, which so Nate Pearson and Addison Barger. Nate Pearson will start with first. He pitched in yesterday's game and went 1 inning with 3 strikeouts, and he looked very, very good. And then mid Blue Jays game, we got a little bit of happiness despite the horrific, not horrific, the very sad loss, which was an Addison Barger first home run of AAA. First home run for the Bisons of the season. Hit an absolute moonshot, 456 feet, and we've been on the Barger train all off season, and he's finally, I don't know, he's looking very good out there. Him and Pearson.
That's a cool looking ballpark. Pop that clip up for me one more time. I kind of like the trees and the
Look
backdrop and
cool. Look
everything.
cool.
Very nice, very cool. I'm not sure where exactly that is. The Rail Riders they're playing against. Don't know what team, what affiliate that is. But Barger now has more home runs than anyone on the Blue Jays combined. So shout out to him. And Nate Pearson yesterday went an inning and a third, struck out 3. And the one thing that stood out to me, a tweet from I believe Chris Black, his velocity kept increasing with each and every pitch. So he started off at around 98, sitting around there, and then his final pitch of his outing was 99.9, so touching 100 pretty much. And that was nice to see out of Nate Pearson. Like we touched on in the pregame, he's probably going to be the first man up in the bullpen if someone were to get called up from AAA. And hopefully he can ramp up his appearances and his workload and stay healthy for the whole year because he could be a valuable piece to this pen.
Yeah, and we'll see if maybe if an injury happens. Hopefully not, or just maybe someone underperforms. And Nate Pearson is expected to be the first man up out of the the Bison's AAA team. But that'll wrap up the video. Again, these are gonna happen throughout the season, so bear with us if you're watching this game. Hopefully you're watching it and just enjoying the fact that Blue Jays baseball is back. But thank you guys for watching. We'll hopefully see you in tomorrow's pregame show and postgame video. See you then.
Thanks.